Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Señoras y señores, buenos días. I'm Olivier Ponti, and I am thrilled to be here for my very first SAHIC conference in person. Now, before we start this presentation, I have a confession to make. And Arturo, Florencia, maybe you're not going to like it, but hey, I'm on stage already, so you can't stop me. Oh, yes, that will help. Thank you. So the confession is this. Before coming here, I wasn't quite sure that SAHIC really existed, that you guys existed. And I mean, I know that Arturo and Florencia are real because we've done a number of Zoom calls together, although, you know, using Zoom calls to check if people are real, that's already a bit strange. But anyways, we had talked. We'd done a number of webinars together. And yeah, I must say I had some doubts because when we did those webinars, I didn't see anybody in the audience. I didn't get any question either after the presentation. So that's a bit worrying when you intend to travel all the way from Europe, where we're based, to Panama for this SAHIC conference. So I'm glad you're here, and I'll be delighted to get the chance to meet you all. And I'm glad I'm here. And I'm also glad we can, you know, already throw this fake SAHIC conspiracy theory to the bin. So Arturo, Florencia, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. We'll try to make the most of it. Now, this said, let's get this presentation rolling, and we're going to focus on key travel trends to LATAM and the Caribbean. As you heard in the introduction, I work for a company called ForwardKeys, and we're in the business of predicting the future. Now, we're not the first one to claim that we can predict the future, and we're not the last ones either. But what makes us special is the way we do it, and just how specific we can be in what we predict. We've got a specialty, and that's air travel. Now, we started this company back in 2010. And the main tool we used at the time for predicting the future were air bookings. Now, why that? Because an air booking is a pretty good and simple way to look into the future. You know who's going to travel, when, starting from where, using which itinerary, you know how long these people will stay, when they come back, etc. So, as I said, it's pretty safe. So we struck a partnership with all the global distribution systems worldwide who gave us their data, and then we processed this enormous amount of data to be able to serve all kinds of travel businesses across the travel ecosystem. So think investors, think hospitality industry, think duty-free operators, travel retailers, and destinations like Panama, with whom we are currently working. This was just the beginning, because then we onboarded plenty of other data sets that gave us different ways of looking into the future from different angles. So we started monitoring all the capacity scheduled by airlines worldwide. We developed partnerships with meta search engines to try and understand how people were searching on the internet prior to booking their flights. That gave us an indication of travel intent. And we also started a partnership with ARC and IATA to get information on direct bookings. And to this, we added additional layers of information and additional layers of intelligence that enabled us and our clients get a better understanding of what they could expect in the coming months or years. I won't bother you with all the other data sets and data points that we have at our disposal. Let's just stick to this, because this is what I've used when preparing this presentation. So, what do the data say about Latin America and the Caribbean? Well, the first thing I'd like to share with you is a note of is a positive note, and that is that in 2022 we expect LATAM and the Caribbean to remain at the forefront of travel recovery. And if I use the word remain, that's because this was already the case back in 2021, where the region was scoring significantly better than the rest of the world. As you can see here, international arrivals were down by 74%. In the Americas, it was only 59%. And zooming in on LATAM and the Caribbean, international arrivals were only 44% down. I say only, I mean, I know it's dramatic, but look at the situation in the Asia Pacific, for example. That's a major, major difference. Now, we've repeated the exercise looking into Q1 2022. So we've used all historical data until now, and we use bookings for the remainder of this month. As you can see, the overall picture is improving worldwide, and it's improving very significantly in LATAM and the Caribbean, which is a region only 26% behind 2019 levels. That's not only the best performing region in the world, but that's also a region which is performing much better than last year. So very, very positive trends here. Now, as you all know, not all destinations across Latin America and the Caribbean are alike. We can clearly see some destinations performing better than others. Mexico, Central America, and Caribbean destinations have been leading the recovery, and this is something that we will still keep seeing this year. South America is still lagging behind, minus 50%, sorry. But if you remember that last year this region was at minus 70%, you can see that there's a strong dynamic and that this is going in the right direction. Whoops, I went way too fast. All right, so now, you may wonder which destinations are the hotspots in the region. So we made this ranking looking into, again, the whole of Q1. And as you can see, we've got two destinations here which are performing even better than in 2019. That's El Salvador and Turks and Caicos. And they're followed in short order by the Dominican Republic, Mexico, and Costa Rica, which are all almost back to 2019 levels. And you may wonder, hey, why is Puerto Rico not there? Why are the US Virgin Islands not there? They're doing great, and you're totally right. Those destinations are doing fantastic, except that here we've decided to focus on international travel, and the US Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico are very, very much depending on a super dynamic US market. So that's why I haven't included them here, but definitely destinations to keep an eye on. As you can see, there's a clear pattern emerging here. The destinations that are performing the best are destinations which are located in coastal areas. So there's a strong interest for sun and sea destinations. We've seen this since the beginning of the crisis, and this is still true in 2022. Now, what can we expect looking further into 2022? Now, there's something I strongly expect, and you probably as well, not to find anymore, and that's the legacy of Omicron. All those travel restrictions that were put in place when the Omicron wave hit, we expect to see this fall behind, and that's already something we can see in the data. At ForwardKeys, we use a composite indicator that we call the recovery index, combining our different data sets to give us an indication of just how far a destination is in terms of recovery. And we do this for all destinations worldwide, which gives us a pretty good benchmark. I've chosen 4 destinations here just for the sake of the argument. So we're looking into Colombia, Ecuador, Salvador, and Panama. And as you can see, each destination is at a different recovery stage, but we can also see that after the big hit of Omicron, end of the year, beginning of this year, we had a very strong rebound. And for all these destinations, the recovery index is actually at a higher level than where it was when Omicron hit. So that's definitely a positive sign. I think there are two forces at play for rolling back the legacy of Omicron. First one is governments deciding to progressively lift the travel restrictions that they had put in place. So they're making travel, international travel, much easier. And the other force at play, it's airlines. Airlines which were forced to readjust their capacities, to cut down on their capacities during the crisis, and which are progressively putting capacity back on the market. So what you can see here is what airlines had predicted, had scheduled in terms of capacity at different periods in time. So in yellow, you've got scheduled capacity as of the end of November, and then you can see how it's been updated in January in red and in March in blue. You can see that in January and February, there were very serious cuts, and that airlines are planning to bring back to the market just as much or even more capacity as prior to Omicron. So supply is there, and that's essential for the rebound. But what's even more essential is that demand is there as well. Here we're looking at all issued tickets for a future trip to LATAM and the Caribbean, and you can clearly see here this rebound taking place from January on, and in the last weeks of February, we were actually pretty much back to 2019 levels in terms of new tickets being issued. Same thing, we've looked into specific destinations just for the sake of the argument. You're looking at Brazil, Colombia, Costa Rica. Again, 3 destinations which are at different recovery levels, but a very clear pattern that you can see here, and that makes us think that we're really going in the right direction. There's been a lot of talks during this COVID crisis about business travel disappearing, corporate travel disappearing because of Zoom calls, because of virtual conferences and the likes. Well, I think we can already see that this is not true, that corporate travel and business travel will come back. It's true that it's been more impacted by the Omicron wave than leisure travel. At least it's taken a bit longer to rebound. The business travel is the blue line that you can see here. And you can see that looking into the future, which is the dotted line you can see on this chart here, we're slowly but surely getting back to 2019 levels. By the end of Q2, we should be between 70 and 80% of 2019 levels. Leisure travel will be much closer to pre-pandemic levels, as you can see here. So very encouraging trends, and I think, again, good piece of news for the hospitality industry in LATAM. A key trend we've identified quite early in the game, actually, is the fact that affluent travelers were, one, the quickest to recover, and two, the highest contributor to the travel economy in many destinations. So what do we mean by affluent travelers? Well, basically, from our perspective, it's people traveling at the front of the plane. Okay, it's as simple as that. So looking at the first half of the year, so we're taking Q1 and Q2, we can see that travelers flying in premium classes are only 15% behind pre-pandemic level. That's much better than for travelers flying economy, which are at minus 24%. So again, good opportunity here for the high end of the industry. Let's talk about transatlantic travel for a little while. Now, as you all know, the US has been fueling the recovery in the region, and it will keep doing so. But European markets have been sorely missed by LATAM and Caribbean destinations. And I'm really happy to report that this is coming to an end. We're starting to see European travelers booking LATAM and the Caribbean again. The reactivation of European travel to LATAM and the Caribbean is very clear on this chart. Here you're looking at all issued tickets from Europe to LATAM and the Caribbean for a trip to take place in Q1. You can see the strong reactivation that took place just before the Omicron wave hit. You can see the impact of Omicron, and you can see the strong rebound. In the week of the 18th of February, bookings from Europe to LATAM and the Caribbean were actually above 2019 levels. What happened next, you all know, it's Russia invading Ukraine, and all of a sudden we could see bookings dropping, bookings from Europe 16% below 2019 levels. So it remains to be seen what the impact of this crisis is. We'll talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes. I wanted to show you an example of how flight searches could be used to look into the future and understand travel trends and travel intent. Here we're looking at the situation in Ecuador, and what we can see is that, yes, for a destination like Ecuador, the US remains the key market in terms of searches being made. But at the same time, we're seeing some European markets very present here as well. That's the case for Spain, Germany, and to a lesser extent, the UK, France, and Italy. So there is pent-up demand, and I think it could be a good idea for Ecuador to look into possibilities of doing tactical marketing campaigns maybe on these markets to reactivate them. That's a free tip for the representatives of Ecuador in the room, courtesy of ForwardKeys. Now, the next trend, I'll go quick on this one because it's been underlying the whole presentation. We expect travel demand to keep improving, and here we've decided to focus on two key holiday periods for the sake of time. We'll just look at Easter and summer in the Northern Hemisphere, and for both of these holiday periods, we're seeing a very high level of reactivations, with booking being only behind by 14% compared with pre-pandemic levels. Of course, that's an average, so some destinations are doing significantly better than the rest. I'm thinking of El Salvador, St. Lucia, or Costa Rica, for example. So we need to look into this into more details. And actually, that's what we're going to do tomorrow. I'll give another presentation when we'll zoom in on specific destinations and specific cities. So make sure that you're there. All right, last but not least, I think what the past 2 years have taught us is that we should be ready to expect the unexpected. That's easier said than done, but we all know what this means. Adriana mentioned this in her presentation just now. Yes, we could expect, we could be hit by a new COVID variant. That's a possibility. Or we could be hit by something totally different. We've just seen the war starting in Ukraine. We've seen the impact it had on inflation, oil prices, the airspace closures, the detours, the waves of cancellations that this generated. Yes, these are things that can happen in this year and that could mess up with these recovery trends that we've seen. We've done our homework and we looked into the current impact at this very early stage of the war of the war in Ukraine on bookings from the US to Europe in orange and to LATAM and the Caribbean in blue. What you can see is that the impact on travel to LATAM and the Caribbean from the US is very limited, in any case much more limited than the impact on travel from US to Europe. So that's a pretty good sign for the region. Now, to sum up, a few takeaways. I think we made clear that LATAM and the Caribbean we're in a very strong position, and we expect this region to keep leading the way in terms of global travel recovery. We've seen that the effects of the Omicron crisis were fading, which is very positive as well. We've seen the importance of the high end of the sector, which will keep driving the recovery. We've seen that travel demand as a whole should keep improving. At least that's what we can see in the data as we speak. And we've seen this very positive development with transatlantic travel resuming as well, and business travel coming back. Business travel will return. I'm not promising a full recovery by the end of the year, but clearly we're getting close to this. So, to conclude, I think it's time for cautious optimism after 2 years of a very, very difficult time for the travel sector. I think the fundamentals are right for the region, and I think 2022 will offer plenty of new opportunities. So it's really up to you to be able to spot these opportunities and to seize them, and I wish you good luck with that. As I can predict the future, I can tell you that with very high level of confidence, I will be back here tomorrow on this stage for a presentation which will focus on how destination data can be used by investors, so I hope to see you there. I'd like to invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn so that we can stay in touch virtually, and what I would find even better is that you seize the opportunity that I'm around for a chat in person. Thank you very much for your attention. Muchas gracias.